welcome today to our Sustainable Skills and Careers webinar with being led by WWF. We've got three amazing people that we're going to hear from today. We're going to start first of all hearing from Catherine Cottridge, who is the Sustainable Careers Programme Lead for WWF UK. And for those of you that don't know WWF UK, it's an incredible organisation that is determined to stop the destruction of nature and help to preserve it and help people and planet thrive together. Catherine's got a careers focus, which will be really interesting to hear about today. So I'm going to hand over to Catherine, and then when you finish, Catherine, we'll hear from our other guests. I'll introduce you a bit later, Evita. Thank you. Thanks, Catherine. Over to you.
Thanks for the great introduction, Claire, and it's really great to be here and talking to you today about sustainable careers and a little bit about green jobs and green skills. Today's session really will explore how to start thinking about your career pathway in the frame of sustainability. I know you've been doing some work on sustainability and climate change, and so that will link in nicely with this, taking this now and applying it to career pathways. It will focus on how sustainability can be a consideration in all jobs and what skills you might need to be successful in a sustainable future. So the first thing to think about really is how we would define sustainability. Now, the United Nations definition describes it as meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So it's all thinking about what needs do people have now. So we might think about those things as we need the basics like air and water and a stable climate, we need food, we need education, but also the people need money, a reliable transport, access to communication. There are all sorts of needs, some of which the planet provides and others which are to do with people. The definition also talks about some of the issues that might mean that future generations aren't able to meet their own needs. And when we think about those things, we think about climate change, we think about air pollution, we think about loss of biodiversity, extinction of species. So all of those things together help us to think about what we mean by sustainability. But actually, what does that mean and why is it important to us now and in terms of our careers? Well, it means change is needed for future generations to meet their needs. And actually, we're going to be part of that change, all of us. The world of the future is going to be very different from the world today, and it will change quickly. That means we're going to get our energy in different ways. We're going to be treating the planet in different ways, thinking about the way we travel, the way we shop. We're shifting to a green economy, and that's one where there is an improved sense of human well-being and social equity with significantly reduced environmental risks. So as with that definition we saw of sustainability, it's vital to consider the people and the planet. So I think probably the best place to start is thinking about what we mean by a sustainable career. Now, we hear a lot about green jobs talked about in the media and how young people need to be prepared for the jobs of tomorrow. But what does that actually mean? So we can think about some careers here. So I've highlighted a few here. This is not an exhaustive list, but there are careers here which you would automatically think some are very sustainable. So we could organise these into most sustainable or least sustainable, and some might be considered as not obviously sustainable. But actually, when we're thinking about what a sustainable career means, what we actually need to think about is the company's values or the way the job is undertaken. We need to think about any of the jobs that might be considered least sustainable or that could be a force for good with different approaches. We think about the choices someone in their career might have about how or where they work and what difference this could make to their positive impact on the world. So it's not always as straightforward as it might seem. So if we have a look at this in a little bit more detail, there are some things that we currently rely on, such as fossil fuel mining, petrol engine design, plastic manufacture. But actually we're going to have to move away from these, which means some industries that are a big deal at the moment are no longer going to be required. But what's important to note here is that actually the people in these roles will undergo reskilling or upskilling to work in the same industry but in a different way, or move to a different industry that is more green, in inverted commas. So what do we actually mean by a green job? And that would be on the other end of the spectrum here. And the obvious jobs we might move to are thinking about renewable energy. So engineers designing wind farms or solar panels. Conservation. So obviously WWF know a lot about this, about protecting species and wild places, but also the people in those places. You might think about energy efficiency or forestry. So managing forests, reforesting, managing the landscape to be good for nature. So these are the jobs that we think, okay, they're being created or they exist already to help with the creation of a sustainable future. Politicians often mean these jobs when they refer to green jobs. So that's why we train people up. And as we have a lot more renewable energy, we'll actually have people to do it. So it's powered by the people that are trained to do it. But there's this big area in the middle. And actually thinking about those green jobs, it's a very narrow selection. And that might not be inspiring for you or what you're thinking about for your future, because it might not be those jobs that appeal to you. Maybe they are, but if they're not, you might be thinking, I do care about the planet. So if I do care about the planet, do I need to actually be getting one of these green jobs? And in short, it's no, but let's explore why. So all the other jobs, there's only a selection here, I should say, so all the jobs on the screen in the middle are not really affected by climate change or are not changing as much. They can be classed as neutral. You can do them in the world today and you'll do them in the world tomorrow. But let's think about what the world tomorrow is actually going to look like. We don't know, but we know it will be different. So we know these jobs will be different. So architects, for example, they're going to continue thinking about designing buildings, but they're going to be thinking about making buildings and cities that work for a planet that are sustainable and react to the fact that we're now getting energy in different ways and we're traveling different ways and so on. There'll be the construction sector example later with B4 Box thinking about how construction might work in this idea of the new tomorrow. So we can say the same about all jobs. And actually the thing to do is to stop and think about what that might be in the future compared to how the job might be being done now. What this means is that we need all these jobs. Societies and industries and sectors are going to be green because that's what we need. So it's not just the new jobs that are being created, it's everyone changing the way that they work in order to create this sustainable future. So this has a big impact on what you might do for your career after study. But I really want to stress that it's not all doom and gloom. You don't have to think about restricting what you do in the future just because you care about the planet. Change is not about getting rid of those things that are not working so that we have less of those things we currently have. What it is going to be is about replacing those things. It's going to be coming up with new ways of living. And ultimately, we need to think about everything we do being sustainable. So if you're thinking about a career and it's to do with what you're good at, it's to do with what you enjoy, that's great, as all of these careers can be green, maybe with the exception of the current red box that we saw on the previous screen. So it's thinking in advance as you move in your direction about what could that look like for you? How could I be a green engineer? What course or specific topics could I do and be familiar with? If I want to be a green journalist, are there papers that I really don't want to work for? Are there certain types of media that I need to be good at because I think they're going to be important in the future to help me move to a more sustainable future? If I want to be a chef, maybe I could think about the type of food that I'm using in the future. Maybe I can help people discover and enjoy them. There are so many options. So I've talked a lot about the transition to green jobs and a green economy, and sustainable careers being that more broad idea that any job can be sustainable. We need a workforce with complementary skill sets to make this happen. You've heard the term employability skills before, I'm sure lots, but they refer to skills that are good to have for any job, so i.e. transferable skills, or I prefer actually essential skills. But what are these employability skills? Here is a list that I would say is not complete, but it's a set of quite common employability skills And you could argue that the essential skills are as important, if not more important, than the subject knowledge or training and qualifications you get for a specific job. Because the subject knowledge and how to complete tasks can be taught on the job, but these transferable skills are how you show that you'll be able to learn quickly and you'll be able to help the company by doing a good job even if things change. This is particularly important to remember when we think about green skills. So we can then start to think about, if a company is committed to sustainable practice, what could those skills that you have in a sustainable context, how could they look like and what could be an asset? So there are many factors to consider when thinking about green skills. There are the technical and knowledge required for the specific green job. So that is going to be specific to the sector and specific to the job. Those are the things you learn in terms of how to do your job, and they're very technical. But actually the essential skills, which we looked at on the previous page, are there in all forms and all jobs across all of those sectors. So maybe the way to think about it is that actually all essential skills need to be developed for success. And to be green, it is about the context in which they're used. So learning technical skills and knowledge alongside developing essential skills within a green context will lead people to being inspired to use their technical knowledge and skills to pursue a green future. Specific sectors will have specific needs, and developing a broad skill set is key. Employers are going to need people who have a real understanding of sustainability, who can come in and change things and do the jobs in new ways that they're going to be done. So being prepared and comfortable with change is important. So change coupled with innovation is required to find solutions to challenging and complex problems. And actually that draws on many of the skills we mentioned earlier, such as creativity. We can't really talk about skills without talking about values. They are equally important when making decisions about our lives. So we can describe our values as what we consider to be most important, the principles that guide our choices. We can use our values as guiding principles for how we live our lives. Being clear about what our values are can help us make those decisions that we're confident and are right for us. And we can act consistently so other people have confidence in us. Some examples of values might include honesty, dependability, commitment, positivity, putting your family first, being fair, finding fun in things, independence, innovation, leadership. And those values are really important to guide those decisions that you make. It would be really good activity to think about and take some time just to consider what your values might be and how you might use them in your decisions that you're making about your career. So just think about the things that make you happy, make you feel good, and how that might be applicable to the career choices you're making. I really wanted to share an example of a case study of someone who chose to do something she loved, made use of her skills, and ensured that she lived by her values. So this is Kalkadan Legacy. She arrived in the UK as an asylum seeker aged 5. In Ethiopia. So the fashion industry is one of the industries that would not be classed as traditionally sustainable, but we probably have seen the news recently, and there is a big shift to making sure that the fashion industry does become more sustainable in the way it produces clothes in its supply chains and how customers think about purchasing clothes or buying secondhand. So Kalkadan has developed her own sustainable fashion brand, and she has an app that helps other companies producing or selling clothes introduce sustainable practices. So she's sharing what she knows with others to help. Kalkadan started out with a clear idea of a possible future by following her passion for fashion and desire to help poor communities in her country. And she pursued a career to which aligned her sustainable values and which also helps support other communities. So I would say, please remember that there might be something that wouldn't happen without you. It wouldn't happen if you weren't coming up with it. So coming up with those ideas and changing the side of society with what you do in your job. So we cannot be sure what the future will look like, but we can prepare ourselves to make decisions that are good for us and the planet to shape the best future possible. So here are 3 takeaways from today's session. There are 3 ways to be a force for good in the world without being restricted. So number 1, you might choose a green job. So you might say, I'm going to train to be an engineer and make it my life's work to make renewable energy. You might choose a green employer. So you might choose a business or organisation that you know overall does good. You're not so worried about what your role is, but you'll be important to the company and the company is important to the planet. So that might be, for example, a lawyer or a project manager within a large company. You choose to give your talent and your energy to an organisation that's a force for good. And the third option would be to bring more green in the world. So you can make the change yourself. Don't just assume that the world has to be as you find it. Come up with an idea and share it. This could look like moving into a sector that isn't currently green, but going there with your sustainable values and being a force for good. You are going to be part of the solution. And I think that links very nicely with the projects we're going to hear about from the Ashton winners shortly. Just to end the session, I would recommend taking a few minutes just to think about one action or activity you'll take following the session to get you started on your Sustainable Futures pathway. I hope that this has inspired you to think about the concept of a sustainable career, whether that be a green job or more broadly, in a different way, and see that it is an opportunity. I think this is definitely something to get excited about. Thank you.
Now we have 2 case study videos to show you from 2 Ashton Award winners. Ashton is a climate change charity and their annual awards shine a spotlight on the world's next climate champions. In one, we'll hear about ASRI in Indonesia. ASRI works to empower local communities and preserve the environment. And then after that, we'll hear from B for Box in the UK, where Oriane explains how construction skills used to retrofit homes can help deliver sustainable living.
My name is Nur Febriani and I'm the Executive Director of ASRI. ASRI believes that community design solutions are very effective to help deforestation and curb global heating. We approach the experts, the rainforest communities who have lived in this rainforest for many generations. They know how best to protect the forest. Conservation is not only about conservation. It's interconnected with healthcare, education, livelihood. So we need to address those challenges at the same time.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Karim, asal Tipa Kuning. Itu keadaan. Yang saya bilang tadi, keadaan oleh karena saya membutuhkan keuangan. Nah itu. Saya tengah gesek langsung didatang dari kehutanan gitu. Langsung dihubungkannya ke ASRI. Tahu ASRI, awalnya saya masuk itulah program UKM. Waktu itu kan saya ditawarkan masalah sejumlah uang. Nah, makanya saya pilih nelayan. Saya ada kelebihan masalah keuangan dari kebun, dari klinik ASRI. Seperti saya menjadi anggota sahut, ada gajinya sedikit demi sedikit. Saya tabung, saya sisihkan untuk beli papan ini. Sudah, pokoknya sekarang ini saya sudah siap mengembalikan. Memang sudah dikembalikan gitu, dari pembayaran bibit, dari setoran keuangan, per bulannya. Kalau dulu ada kesulitan, kalau sekarang enggak. Sebab itu mempermudahkan lewat bibit. Bahkan saya pun sedikit demi sedikit udah ada tabungan di ASRI.
The rainforest communities design and lead the programs that ASRI is doing every day, like Goats for Widows, where we support widows, basically the most vulnerable in the community, to have alternative livelihood. Also, we teach kids and teenagers on the importance of the environment, healthcare, biodiversity, all those things that support their health and also the health of the forest.
Saya pun sering kontrol masa mitra-mitra yang ada ikut gitu. Jadi yang jelas mereka yang mana ikut itu tidak berani lah ya mau mengulangi gitu. Seperti tentang keuangan, tentang penghijauan, tentang malah ada penebangan, itu yang saya dapat dari asri.
I'm Oriane Landers. I've been in Stockport for quite a few years now, so I've become a local. I'm an assistant site manager for Beaverbox, and I'm also learning to be a retrofitter. We train up younger people in retrofitting, which is insulating a house to make it more cost-effective and energy efficient, and gives them job opportunities in the local community. There's a lot of fuel poverty in Stockport, and retrofitting helps people save money on these massive fuel prices. We are a multi-trade organisation. We train in plastering, joinery, tiling, kitchen fitting, bathroom fitting, insulating, the whole house basically, fitting triple glazing, which is a new one. There's a lot of opportunities for people from disadvantaged backgrounds, people who've struggled getting jobs in the past. Beaverbox are very inclusive, so they're not bothered about whatever's happened before. They just want to know that you've got the capacity to learn, that you want to learn. It's on-the-job trainers who are working, but you're getting paid to learn at the same time, which is brilliant. They sort of put you on a little train track towards success, which is great, because they're always encouraging you. And now it's a perfect opportunity to be trained in retrofit because they just haven't got enough people to do it by 2035, which is the date that the government has set for all, pre-existing houses to be retrofitted, which is just not going to happen without anybody trained. We're lucky that we're a training company and we get to, we're the ones at the start line now. I'm hopefully going to retrofit my own house, do it all myself, and get them prices down because it's ridiculous at the minute.
For me, it's really quite inspirational to listen to everybody with that real strong message that everything is possible, change is possible, collaboration and community are really important, but also doing things yourself and thinking yourself, really thinking about the decisions that you make, and that actually change is not possible without you, but change can take place through the careers that you choose to go into, and that every career has the opportunity to have an element of green skills, and it's all about your skills and values, whatever they are. So I think that is really, really interesting webinar from you. Thanks so much to WWF for leading with that great piece at the beginning about careers. Really made me think a lot. Thank you very much, and close the session.